financial joy, in terms of what the idea is about. So financial joy is effectively a mindset or model for people who earn money and spend money to help them achieve a balance of wealth and well-being. Because a lot of the time, all our time spent chasing that money, trying to build that wealth at a cost to our true well-being, a cost to our health, cost to our family lives. There's a real cost that happens all the time. So financial joy is...
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Mr MoneyJar show. This week we are joined by Ken and Mary, the founders of The Humble Penny. And this is a bit of a different episode this week because it's the first time I'm interviewing two people at the same time. Ken and Mary are the dynamic husband and wife duo who talk all things financial joy and financial independence. They're both financially independent themselves. And on this week's episode, they'll be sharing how they got to a point of financial independence, so how they built their wealth, how they've done things like pay off their mortgage, how they teach their children about money, and about their upcoming book, Financial Joy. It was an absolute pleasure speaking to them on this week's episode. When I first started my financial journey, I used to follow them on YouTube. So it's a full circle moment now being able to interview them on my podcast. And if you stick around, I think this episode is going to blow a few of yours minds. So thank you very much for joining us, and I hope that you enjoy it. You're tuned into the Mr MoneyJar show. It's showtime. Ken, Mary, how are you both doing?
Hey.
Great. Hi to me, and thank you for having us on your podcast.
Yeah. Really, really excited to have you both
Very
here.
excited.
Really excited.
We made it. Let's dive straight in because we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Do let us know who you both are and what you both do. We'll start with Mary first.
Okay, so I'm Mary, one half of the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. We run a educational platform on YouTube, and we also have a blog where we help people take control of their finances, grow their money, and work towards financial independence. And we started it in 2017.
Jeez.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. And Financial Joy Academy is our sister brand that we started in 2020. And the goal there, the mission there is to help at least 10,000 people to achieve financial independence by 2030. That's the mission. But yeah, we're a husband and wife team. We've got two children, aged 10 and 9. And yeah, this is our full-time gig. We enjoy doing it and we have fun doing it.
Yeah. I've known you both for many years now.
Yes.
You're a huge inspiration to me. I don't know how you managed to do it all. But,
I don't know how we do it, to be honest.
Yeah. So how long have you both been financially independent? This is quite a desirable goal for a lot of people, and you've both achieved this.
Yes. So for us, it actually began in 2009, which is actually connected to how we met. But we've been FI, financially independent, since 2017. So 6 years now. Yeah. So, but it didn't happen overnight. It's actually a very important thing to mention to people. I think when people want to achieve goals like financial freedom or become financially independent, people almost assume that it will happen overnight. For us, it's been a long time coming. And what happens is when you get to that point, it never actually ends there, depending on what your goals are. It just enhances over time. It actually, depending on what your spending limits are and how much you're spending on your lifestyle, it could get better, it could get worse over time. But yeah, 2017 was the official kind of cutoff for us.
Okay. And for people who maybe don't know what financial independence is, Mary, could you just in a nutshell, spell it?
Yeah, so financial independence is when the income from your assets cover your expenses. And yeah, in a nutshell, financial freedom, I guess, is when the income from your assets cover your expenses and you're living your lifestyle.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So work becomes optional, basically.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that because, the work we do is not a traditional job. It's not like you get a paycheck every month and that kind of stuff. So there are times when it's up and down and up and down. So one thing that's enabled us to be able to do what we're doing today is actually that journey of financial independence over many years. Many people don't talk about that, but that background of being able to have some financial security helps with entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is not the easiest thing in the world. It's actually pretty challenging at times. So yeah, having that cushion definitely helps.
And just very quickly, what jobs did you both do prior to becoming FI?
Sure.
So I had a very short career. I started off in media, in production for a year. And then you had was it 2008 when everyone was just made redundant? And I found myself in an accountancy firm for 7 years as an e-business analyst, something I just fell into. But then I left when I was 3 months pregnant with our first child in 2012 to run a children's nursery. It was a family nursery business. And I did that for, another 7 years whilst taking my children along with me to work. And I did that full time. But then we also started the Humble Penny as a passion project, which grew to the point where I couldn't do the two together. And then I left it in 2020 to work on the Humble Penny full time.
Okay, cool. And Ken?
Yeah, so I worked my career has always been in the investment business. So I trained as a chartered accountant and worked my way up to become a chief financial officer in the venture capital business. I started as a trainee accountant. I've worked in various companies, asset management, investment businesses, basically. But the last one I worked for was a venture capital business, investing in creative companies. So companies in the creative industries in the UK. So I worked there as their CFO, a board level role. But we started Humble Penny in 2017. And it was going well, managing it. But of course, COVID came and collided, and all the pressures of homeschooling, all the pressures of running a side hustle and having a demanding job, your mental health. There's so many things that just collided. And 2020 just seemed that time when I thought, well, actually, we've been working towards this goal of trying to do this thing full time. Eventually, why not now? So took that leap in 2020 to actually focus on the Humble Penny full time. And 3 years later, we're still here.
Nice. So many of the people that are listening to this podcast episode that would have found you, I'm sure, would have watched your YouTube channel, which is fantastic, by the way. And there's one video on there where you talk about how you paid off your mortgage within 7 years. And that video just continues to grow and grow and grow. So could you just give a summary of how you did that, how you achieved that?
Okay.
Before I let you go technical, no, I just wanted to say that, like, Ken mentioned before, it actually started in 2009 when we met. We were very intentional. Like we'd recently gotten engaged and Ken booked a trip for us in Zanzibar. We were on a beach in Pongwe and we had a notepad where we did a 10-year plan. And in that plan, we also said we wanted to pay off our mortgage in 10 years and become financially independent. So it did actually start in 2009 as with us being very intentional and being on the same page. So I'll let you talk about how exactly we did that.
That's the more important information, the dreaming part. And I think that dreaming part is what people overlook. A lot of the time, we don't really paint a picture of what the vision of our lives should look like. So painting that picture was actually really powerful, because then you're like, do you know what? One of the things we said before we get to the actual mechanics was we wanted a house we could walk up to and like open a door without climbing any stairs. Mary said she wanted an island in the kitchen. I wanted off-road parking. So we had the very specifics of what we wanted and how we wanted the house to look. This is even before we had kids, before like any of that came along. As far as overpaying the mortgage comes, we started with a 25-year mortgage. And a key part of our approach was how could we basically, we understood that debt compounds, right? So it builds up and builds up over time. But we were doing this, bear in mind, where interest rates were at rock bottom. So many people were like, this is really stupid. Why would you be paying off your mortgage when interest rates are so low? But we had a dual strategy of trying to overpay the mortgage whilst investing in the stock market. So what we did was effectively overpaying, starting very small. So for example, if you overpaid by about £100 per month, let's say your mortgage total amount was about 250K, it works out to be about 3 years thereabouts off the term of the mortgage. So when we figured out that actually this is a meaningful thing, it gave us a big motivation, and we started to up it, to a point where through side hustles, through trying to work hard on our careers, I did an exec MBA, Mary did a childcare qualification, we were leveling up in our careers. Through doing that, we were able to overpay monthly by up to £1,000 after years of obviously building up. And overpaying by about £1,000 wipes out 9 years off your mortgage, right? So because we could see that change happening, you call the bank, they say, oh, you've got this many years left. You're like, wow, okay. You went from 25 years to about 15 years, kept coming down to about 12 years, 10 years, and so on. But one thing people always say is how are you able to do that? Because, every bank gives you like this overpayment limit. Let's say you can only overpay by 10% per year. The one thing we did was we understood how the mortgage market worked. So we were able to get mortgage products that didn't have, overpayment limits and things like that. So you had a lot more flexibility. But in summary, overpayments was key. Every month we're overpaying at least like twice a month. So we pay the usual monthly payment, then we'll pay a monthly overpayment. If we find 20 quid in your spare, like I'd see money that Mary's left, like, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, no pound was safe in the house. Literally, any loose change, Ken saw, he was like, oh, what's that doing there? Bank it.
Yeah.
That can go
That can go towards overpayments.
Overpayments.
Every pound mattered,
Yeah.
right? So, but we were doing that against, a cultural, I guess, push in that many people were saying, no, you shouldn't really be doing that. But for us, we understood what we wanted. And I think that's very important when you're trying to design your life of financial joy, as we call it. You need to kind of know what you want and have your own game plan. It might not align with what everybody wants, but so long as you're happy with the plan you've got for your life, then working towards that plan is a good plan to have. And that's what we focused on. So doing that has changed our lives because it's meant we're able to have flexibility, our career options. I didn't have to carry on working, did you know I worked out that my commute to work from Kent, where we live, to Marylebone High Street, 90 minutes one way, 90 minutes back. When I worked it out in a whole month, it works out to be about 28 days a year. It's like losing all of February.
Goodness.
It's like losing February in a whole year. Just commuting,
yeah,
right? And some days it was longer. So, for us, that getting rid of that mortgage made a huge difference, not just financially or mentally. Like, do you know how much weight you carry when you have a huge mortgage? And today, obviously, with millennials and Gen Z, it's a big challenge because a lot of people are taking them out for even longer, 35 years, beyond 35 years. And obviously that debt keeps compounding, particularly as the interest rates are still high. So anyway, paying off the mortgage early has been a game changer for us. And in fact, I should add, I was thinking the other day, what other impact it's had is our children. Like, do you know how much stability you have when you have a family where children are in a safe space, they're not worrying about getting into gangs, and you've found a place where you've created a home. Like for me and Mary and I, when we think about it, that's part of the legacy we're creating for our family and our children.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. Because what people don't realize, so the stock market is quite well understood in the sense of if you invest, then you get compound interest. Your investment will grow exponentially upwards over time. But what people don't understand when it comes to overpaying your mortgage, and you do this really well in the YouTube video with the graph, is overpaying your mortgage is like going up on an escalator, which gets faster the closer you get to that escalator. Yeah. The more you pay off that mortgage, the less time there is on the mortgage each time you overpay. So it compounds in the opposite direction to investments. I think it's really, really cool. The point about stability is absolutely spot on. My parents, they did the best that they could, but I've lived in like a double-digit number of houses. So the concept of going back home to my the house I grew up in and seeing my bedroom with all my posters on the wall doesn't exist. Like I've moved every other year of my life, basically. So that's very powerful what you're able to create for your children. If I could also say, I'm just like having a bit of an out-of-body experience at the moment because I started off watching you on YouTube and I'm interviewing you about your YouTube video. So it's just, I feel like I'm in the presence of
financial. You should big yourself up.
Yeah, exactly.
This shows how much progress you've made. And that's phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Definitely. Did I actually tell you, I found out last Thursday that I've qualified as a financial advisor.
Congratulations.
Come on.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah. I got
brilliant.
Got my DIP FA as well.
Get those letters after your name.
Exactly.
As if it isn't long enough. So we're here to talk about wealth, financial independence, but a big thing that you're both also known for is financial joy. And I'd really like to talk about today.
Sure.
You have a book on the subject coming out. Could you tell us a bit about what the book's about and why you decided to write it?
Yes. So our book is titled Financial Joy, and with the promise of, if you read this book, it will help you to banish debt, grow your money, and unlock financial freedom in 10 weeks.
Okay.
So it's a 10-week plan. And do you want to elaborate on it?
Yeah. So financial joy, in terms of what the idea is about. So financial joy is effectively a mindset or model for people who earn money and spend money to help them achieve a balance of wealth and well-being. Because a lot of the time, all our time is spent chasing that money, trying to build that wealth at a cost to our true well-being, a cost to our health, a cost to our family lives. There's a real cost that happens all the time. So financial joy is bringing together two worlds together. The financial elements, which is about that money journey you're on towards becoming financially free. But that joy piece is very important. I must think of it as the financial piece is what you want, the joy is what you need. And without that joy piece, it's almost like a bit worthless actually pursuing the money.
Absolutely. And we've got interviews with people who are on different stages on their financial journey. So people who are at the start of their financial independence journey. So you can anybody who picks up this book will find a case study that is relatable to them in their financial situation, wherever you are at your individual journey.
Yeah.
The book itself is a plan. That's the key thing to mention. So there's a lot of activities. So you're going through chapter week by week. So week 1 is focused on one topic, week 2 and so on. So going through from the very beginnings, looking at things like your habits, your behaviors, looking at things like behavioral biases, things that, social media and the impact of social media on our behavior, all the way to how you start to become debt-free, good debt versus bad debt, how you actually use debt to build wealth as well. Then progressing gradually to how you make money via side hustles, investing in the stock market, and then progressing towards retirement, legacy planning, how you retain your wealth. So it actually walks you through over 10 weeks. And then in between are those various case studies that Mary mentioned.
Yeah, I look forward to reading it. And I think that piece about, wealth isn't just the monetary aspect, it's also the joy aspect, is a much more holistic take on wealth. And I say something similar in the talks that I do in my content, which is that wealth isn't just the money, but it's your memories, it's your experiences, it's your relationships.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you're not going to take the money with you, but if you have people that you love and they love you back, you're the wealthiest person on the planet in my view.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a good point. A lot of people do pursue whatever financial goals that they have at the expense of maybe their relationship. So they might look at their partner in a few years' time and they don't even recognize each other. They've kind of drifted apart. Or, you might have parents who then realize that they've been chasing money. Now their children are grown, and where they've always wanted to spend time with their parents, actually now they're at an age where they don't really rely on their parents. So they might have lost that opportunity to form those bonds with their children. Or just people in general just hustling at the expense of their joy, their well-being and their purpose. But what we're saying is you can actually do both.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can actually do the both, and it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg.
And you don't have to have arrived at financial freedom to feel that you can start enjoying your life.
Exactly.
This is the key thing. Everyone's
it's
like,
harder, but you have to be intentional about it.
Yeah. Everyone's like, I want to wait till it's not until I'm financially free that I can start to feel like I'm making it. But in actual fact, if you design your life really well, you can put joy at the center of your finances today. Even if you're at the very beginning, there's so many free activities, there's so many low-cost things you can do, but it's the intentionality of prioritizing them in your diary rather than prioritizing so many other things. Effectively means every week you feel like you're in this wheel where you're not enjoying your life, but you're always working to make that money. And you never feel like you're fulfilled in your financial life, and you're forever comparing yourself to other people. Whereas the journey is about how do you go on your own journey? How do you design your custom life for financial joy? Because for everybody's different. If I ask someone and say to you, what does your financial joy mean to you? It'll be different to what somebody else says. I think that's what's interesting about it, because then everyone can then focus on their own goals and focus on what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and you both have the Financial Joy Academy.
Yes.
As well.
Yes. So you can speak to that.
Yeah, so Financial Joy Academy is a membership which we started in 2020. So it's February 2020, just before COVID. It was actually a crazy time
Worst
to launch
time
it.
to start
an in-person community. Yeah.
Exactly. So obviously we started off with the Humble Penny, and that is literally free resources. But we had a lot of requests for coaching, one-on-one coaching. But it wasn't something that we were actually able to do with all the time constraints. We were both working full-time. We have children, commitments. So we thought that we'd create a membership where we can actually hold loads of courses, masterclasses with guest experts, and coaching calls fortnightly. We also do accountability partners. It's basically a hub where people can come together, they can network. They can also have opportunities to do joint ventures, which we've had a lot of actually from just the members within our community coming together.
To buy property together.
Exactly, to buy property, to start online businesses together. So it's been amazing. Been doing it since 2020. And yeah, that's our academy.
So when we were talking about the financial joy piece, Mary, you mentioned this example of,
Yeah.
the couple who wake up one day and they don't recognize each other. And I thought that'd be a good segue into the next question I had for you both, because you're both married. How long have you
Yes.
both been married for?
12 years happily married.
12 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So how can people prioritize financial joy in their marriage or in their relationship if they're not?
It's a good question. It's important to have goals, individual goals, but also joint goals. So where you're both working towards something. I think that's very important. And just being intentional with the time you spend with your partner. So, there are times when we can just chill in the evening and just watch Netflix, which is nice. But then there's also times when we can be intentional about what we're doing, where we're sitting down together and we're dreaming together. That could be our future goals, whatever that is, or where do we plan to go on holiday soon. Organizing date nights, so taking it in turns to do that.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on other
keeping a
things?
surprise. I think surprises are very important in a relationship or marriage. Acts of service are very, very important. Obviously, this is connected to money in some capacity. Yeah. We also do vacations. So going away without our children, literally we just say to our kids, sorry, we existed before you got here. So we will continue to exist. So sometimes we essentially book a holiday and go away together. And that's become a part of our calendar every year as a couple. Another is we take August, the entire month of August every year. We take that off as a family to travel and to hang out, and that helps to kind of refresh and reignite so much of that life in our relationship as well as in our family life. So I think it's about that intention. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. I think it's just about using your time and money quite wisely, and choosing to prioritize that relationship, using your finances basically.
Yeah, Ken's very good at organizing the vacations. Like, if I ever suffer from mum guilt, Ken's like, no, don't worry, they'll be fine. And the boys are actually used to it. Like, they know that mum and dad go on holiday and they're fine. They're actually happy because they can just stay with their cousins and spend quality time with them.
Play Roblox.
Exactly as much. So yeah, they're happy with that. As long as we get a family holiday as well, then they're cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any children, but the sense I get is that if your children can see that you as a couple are solid, then that's something that they can be reassured by.
Yeah.
But you're calling it a vacation.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, vacation with Bay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know where I saw that. It must be on Instagram.
Probably
hashtag.
YouTube. Holiday with your partner.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And as parents, because you got two boys. Yes. I think you mentioned their ages.
Yeah, 10 and 9.
10 and 9.
Yeah.
So how do you, again, with that financial joy piece, how do you maintain that as parents?
I think a big part of what we do is to have some family cultures. So small things we do together as a family. And one is we watch movies together. So typically on a Friday night or a Saturday night, we sit down, we let the children pick the movie and pick what they want to watch. Mary checks to make sure it's safe for their age group.
Yeah.
And then,
Common Sense Media.
Common Sense Media,
Excellent
or wherever the
website.
site is.
Yeah.
So she checks it, and then we're like, yeah, let's do it. And then we assemble all the popcorn. They pick anything they want, all the sweets and all the stuff, all the nuts and things that go in. And we just sit down and watch a movie. So that's one thing we do. And traveling is another. We really love traveling as a family. I think at the moment, we've been to maybe 29 countries so far and counting. So every year we plan where we're going to go, and the children love it. I never traveled at all until I immigrated to the UK at the age of 14. That was my first ever, I got on a plane. I'm like, wow, I'm on a plane and I'm eating broccoli.
It wasn't nice.
I'm like, what's this little tree that they're serving me on the plane? This is my first travel experience. But these children, this is part of what generational wealth is. They're getting exposure to that. So financial joy with children is trying to bring them along with a lot of our experiences, and also educating them about financial literacy, which I hope we'll talk about, on this conversation. It's about making sure that they are building a healthy relationship with money, making sure they are, there's that delayed gratification. I'll give you an example. Our son wants something called Nike Tech or something, some tracksuit thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, what? Takes me to the shop. It's like, Daddy, look at this thing. On sale, The hoodie, I think, was £75.
Something like that, yeah.
Like, what?
Just the
Just the top.
okay.
And he's
I'm like,
10.
wow. For a 10-year-old, I'm like, no way. You know, we can afford it. There's absolutely no way I'm getting that. You know, so it's just making sure they understand that their worth doesn't come from the things they're wearing. Like, do you understand? And making sure that they're able to make some decisions for themselves, not driven by how everybody is moving, almost like this groupthink. I think that's very important when you're building wealth. You're able to be slightly contrarian when it comes to your decision-making about money, almost countercultural. So it's how do we start to shape that? So financial joy includes introducing those kind of thought processes to our children. It might be unpopular. They might go, oh no, all our friends have mobile phones. Why don't we not have mobile phones? You know, that's another one we're debating at the moment at home. You know, but it's how do you achieve that balance? I think financial joy includes just making sure, yes, we're having fun, we're doing all the really cool things, but also educating the children.
Yeah, and also being able to spend time with them on a daily basis, or just if they have an event at school, being able to attend their sports days, their plays at school and pickups, off-school clubs, just, being able to have that flexibility.
Yeah.
To be there for those key moments whilst they're growing.
Yeah, I mean, I have memories of, cause I went to school where like the trainers you wore like would determine whether you had friends or not. So I remember what it was like back then. I remember bugging my parents a lot to have the latest Nike hoodie or trainers or whatever. But the thing you realize when you grow older is that you don't remember that stuff. The stuff that you remember is the stuff that you've spoken about. You remember the trips you've gone on. You remember the dinners around the table. You remember the movies you've watched. I remember one of my brother's dad, every Friday we would watch Robot Wars followed by WCW wrestling.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just going to remember that for the rest of my life.
That's brilliant.
You know, he took the time to create those memories with us. And my mum too. So I'm just loving this holistic take on wealth. If we stay, you know, so we're talking about parenthood, let's stay with the financial literacy for children piece. How can parents teach their children about money in 2023 and beyond? Because it's peak out here, basically.
Yes.
Lots of adverts, lots of social media, lots of kind of influences.
Yeah, so I'd say that, like, for our boys, we co-invest with them. And so it's such a brilliant opportunity to not only co-invest with our children, but actually teach them step by step and take them through the process of putting money, you know, in their ISA account, for example. And we've also taught them an importance of budgeting, which is brilliant. So by budgeting, they know that whenever they receive money, birthday money, Christmas money from their grandparents, they know that a third of it should be invested. Some of it they should spend, and then the rest of it maybe give to a charity of their choice. And so that's something ingrained in them. And they also know that they shouldn't spend beyond their means. If we give them a budget for a toy, for example, then they will shop according to that budget. They will go on Amazon, or they will look at smithstore.com. If they wanted to buy a Lego set, because I don't know, Lego sets can range from £5 to like £1,000, depending on
the
what
model.
On the model.
Yeah.
But they already know that if we set them a £30 budget, they will buy within their budget. So that's a win for us.
Big time.
Because we don't have to tell them that actually this is unrealistic. But one thing we didn't talk specifically about was clothing, which is why we're in this pickle of them asking for Nike Techs. But yeah.
Because they've always got hand-me-downs.
They've always had, and they've been happy with it.
Yeah,
But now they're seeing online,
social media,
certain influencers that they watch wearing a Nike Tech. But it's about having those conversations with them from young. And they're never too young to understand the principles of budgeting, saving, investing. Just if you can just talk to them at their level in a way that they can understand in simple terms. So that point about co-investing with them, they've built an awareness and an interest in their investment. So they're always asking us, oh, how can I see my investments? How much have we got at the moment? At 9 and 10.
Amazing.
Yeah. They've got an interest in it.
And they know where the money is.
They know where the money is. So now they even want to make more money so that they can invest some of it as well, which is awesome. And
I think in addition to what Mary said, I think it's about principles and habits. So principles, I use practical things like every day. Let's say I'm doing a school run and we're driving and there's a bit of traffic, and I pull up and I'm like, I look to my left, there's a chip shop, and I say to them, hey boys, hey, look at that chip shop over there. How do you think that chip shop makes money, right? And what I'm trying to communicate there, really, when we have the dialogue around it, is that money doesn't just come from the bank. Like mum and dad don't just withdraw the money from a cash machine. Money comes from an exchange of value.
Yep.
Like someone has to have done something, created something, served somebody for money to be given and for a profit to be created. So I think there's a huge opportunity in using everyday things around us to communicate principles, every single day, all around. There are principles that we can teach children all around us. And those principles help them to remind them of things. It might be certain sayings, or it might be, a lot of us remember money doesn't grow on trees, right? But you want to make sure you're teaching them the right principles, so that they develop that growth mindset, because mindset's a big part of wealth, and they develop that abundant way of thinking. But aside from principles, then it's habits, like Mary was saying, living within your means and delaying gratification and stuff like that, just making sure you're apportioning money properly and that kind of thing. And also leaving money to grow into the future. It's quite a hard thing for a child to understand, why am I leaving it to grow into the future? I was trying to communicate that. I never forget one of our boys one of his investments went down. He's like, Daddy, where did my money go? Why did the bank take the money? Like, where? They don't understand loss. Like, you've lost money on an investment. They're like, where's it gone? Like, why did the bank take it? So without that ongoing conversation and thinking, how do I explain this in a really simple way? A child doesn't really develop almost the literacy they need financially. But if you just make it a part of daily conversation, like we call our kids all the time, we're like, hey, come, look at this. We're investing in the S&P 500. Like, oh, Dad, what's the S&P 500? I take out my little board in the kitchen. I draw the thing and I go, imagine you want to buy, you got Apple phone. Why don't we just buy all the companies instead of just the Apple?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I like the idea of that. All right, let's do it right now. Here's the mouse. Hold the mouse. Let's actually buy it right now. Click here, click here, click here. Add it to the basket. Yay, we've invested. High fives. We've done it. So you're taking them on that journey. This is what Mary means by co-investing. So we're not only putting money with them, but you're also teaching them. They're actually doing it,
Powerful, powerful stuff.
No, I just wanted to add actually about the real life examples. It's bugging me because it's a big talking point in our house at the moment. So at the moment, one of their favorite rappers, and I don't know where this came from, is Central C, and he wears what they call the best drip. So the Nike Techs, the best trainers, the Trapstar jackets, and they keep asking for these tracksuits. And I have to explain to my boys that actually, do you know that this Central C actually probably gets paid to wear these tracksuits? He's covered all over JD Sports. They pay him to wear it. And those cars that you see him driving, him and his crew, there was like a scene where there was, I think, 5 Porsches, green Porsches. They've just hired it. It's a prop for the music video. They're going to hand it back. So you can't compare yourself to these people who, this is literally their work uniform. It's part of their image and it's their branding. If you want that outfit, is it part of your brand? Is it part of your job? But yeah, so it's about explaining, the real world, and not everything you see online is as it seems. Yeah,
absolutely. I think Central C and Dave had a #1 a few months back for quite some time. So yeah, they were all over the place.
Right.
I
wouldn't know.
I just made this up right now, but on this thing of I was thinking how to explain the concept of an investment going down in value to a child. And I was thinking there's something in there about maybe a tree which has lost its leaves. It doesn't mean that the tree has died. It just means that there's less leaves on the tree. The economy is cyclical. And when spring and summer comes again, it will be in full bloom again.
Yes.
So,
seasonal.
Yeah.
Love that.
But it will continue producing fruit.
It will continue producing fruit. As long as you don't uproot, you
Yes,
don't chop the tree
exactly.
down.
Don't chop the tree down.
Exactly.
I like that.
Don't withdraw your money.
Yeah.
Because I love that.
That's awesome. I'm really loving this conversation.
Yeah, no, likewise.
Cool. So I think there's a question I also wanted to ask you about having children as 2 Nigerian parents who were raised by Nigerian parents yourselves. For our generation, I'm guessing that the messaging we would have got when it came to work and life and stuff is go to school, go to uni, get a good job. But now you have done that and then you've stopped working and you now run a business. So if your children said that they wanted to run a business to you, what would you say to that? Or do you have expectations that they too should get a job as well? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, go and become a lawyer. Do you know what?
It's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love. I mean, our children will do what they want to do,
Yeah.
right? But I'd love our children to become enterprising because, like, you know, part of the world I come from, I was born and bred in Nigeria. I moved here when I was 14. My parents grew up in the eastern part of Nigeria, born and bred. We're very entrepreneurial, you know, in our part of the world. And my mum, one word she's always used from my childhood is, you have to be enterprising. Yeah. You have to get into the driving seat of your life. And I think being enterprising is about creativity. It's about solving problems. So I think it's about developing those skills, core problem solving skills, embracing their inbuilt creativity, almost not being limited by a glass ceiling. I don't like the idea of like, you can only make 40K or 50K or whatever K per year. I generally don't like that idea. Like, I just like no maximum. You can as long as you keep creating value, your income can keep growing. You know, provided though your lifestyle doesn't keep creeping up with it, you can then build a buffer and build wealth. So I think it's about communicating that and helping our children understand that you have it within you to create. You have it within you to shift things around, to create the future you want, to, you know, run multiple businesses if you wanted to do what you actually love. But if they wanted to go into traditional careers too, you know, or do both.
I actually want them to work at maybe McDonald's for a while, for a period, just to experience what it is like in the real world. They've seen what mommy and daddy do. They know that it's very, you know, you can thrive and have a good, you know, career as a business owner, running your own, online business or whatever it is you might want to do. But I actually also want them to have a little bit of experience of working in retail. Yeah, exactly.
My youngest brother did a weekend job at McDonald's this year.
Oh, nice.
And then because he's doing his A-levels now, he left. But very proud to say he worked it. He saved up $1,000, and he got that taste of, as you say, the real world. And and using my knowledge, I said to him, like, you do realize, right, that McDonald's don't actually run the building you're in. It's a franchise of this limited company, and they've basically leased the business of McDonald's. So I clued him up on the business side of things. And he, you know, 16, but he had this kind of wider view of what he was doing and stuff. I think it's very valuable.
Can I just say one thing, right? I don't want what I share to almost come across the wrong way. It's very important to have a real lived experience of actual work, working for someone, because you learn team building skills, you learn how to meet deadlines, you learn how to, you know, take responsibility for things, you learn how to just get going because, you know, like, you know, you're going to be judged if you don't get stuff done. All those things, like the skills I use today, to, you know, run the Humble Penny with Mary, run the financial, all those skills came from my 14, 15-year career working across different companies, small, medium-sized, large businesses, taking rubbish from bosses, you know, acting in that capacity of, I'm an employee, I've got an employment contract, and I have to, you know, basically level up in my job and skill up. So without that background, I'd struggle actually as an entrepreneur because I didn't, you know, like, look, I didn't grow up, you know, like with core entrepreneurship every single day. My parents have had a mix, you know, of working as well as running their own businesses. So I think having that real world experience is definitely important, like make no mistake. But there's always time to run a business. My dad is in his 70s, drives around in his Cadillac today around London, runs his food business, wears a baseball cap, just rocks up, does his own thing. Like, you know, but he had a career working, you know, as a vet and doing all the things he had to do. But then now he's doing entrepreneurship. So it's never too late, really. It just depends on, you know, stage of life and what have you.
And whatever they decide to do, exactly, we'll just teach them that you can be an employee, but we'll teach them not to have and keep that employee mindset. So you can have your side hustles, you can run a business, and then if that takes off, run that full time. But you do not have to stay in a job employed. Yeah, it's a season.
So, cool. So the lesson there is to be enterprising, whether you're in a job or whether you're running a business. Because if you're enterprising in a job, you probably rise up the ranks
anyway.
I've loved this conversation so much. There's still so much more that I'd love to ask you, but we have to come to the last question, which we ask all guests. And for the first time I'm asking it to two people. Mary, I'll start with you and then I'll come to you, Ken.
Okay.
So what's the best piece of money advice you've ever received? Who shared it with you and what did you learn?
So it was actually from a book, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I heard about the cash flow quadrant. And in a nutshell, he categorized 4 people into 4 quadrants based on how they receive an income. So on the left side of the quadrant, you're either an employee or self-employed. And on the right side of the quadrant, you're an investor or business owner. Yeah. So, employee, you basically rely on trading time for your time and skills for money. You're relying on a boss, there's no flexibility and you can't really decide on your pay as such. Self-employed person, you're either a freelancer, you could even be a doctor or
like a plumber?
Or a plumber, exactly. You have more flexibility and freedom, but it all depends on the effort that you put in as to how much you actually make. So Robert Kiyosaki is essentially saying that we should move towards the right-hand side of the quadrant where you're a business owner, and business owners create systems and businesses that, other people can run even if you're not there. An investor where you basically create passive income and, assets from either property or investments like dividends, basically. So the idea is to move towards the right-hand side of the quadrant, and it requires a different mindset, basically. So that was interesting because it articulated what I kind of knew, but in a different way.
Yeah, it puts it into a good framework. Yeah. And cash flow quadrant serves as a sequel, in a sense, to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a great
book. Yeah.
And you, Ken?
Yeah, so this advice came from my mum, who's a huge inspiration for me. The advice was, you would never get rich by relying on one income. So she'd always say to me, look, I remember so clearly when I said to Mum, I wanted to train as a chartered accountant. She said to me, that's good, yeah. Why don't you just hire an accountant? Why don't you just start a business and hire an accountant? And I'm like, no, Mum, I want to become a professional. She's like, yeah, but you can still hire these people. They're just like workers. You just start a business and just like make money and then hire them. What she's really telling me was, look, the job's good. Like you do well, you wear your suit, wear your tie and all those things and you do what you're doing. But, if you want to build real wealth over time, you need to put money into assets. You need to really start to invest. And the more you have that income coming from different places, the more you can put it into assets to then create more income. It took me years to really understand it and then come around to it. And that's okay, because I think for everybody, it takes a while for the penny to drop in different ways, but it's never too late. I think that's the key thing, for me, just realizing that this one income, it's like, imagine having all your eggs in one basket. That's what one income represents. But if you can find a way of, making a bit more from somewhere else, even if it's 10% of your main income, at least you're diversified in some way. And the more other assets can create that income for you, the more you'll be able to stop swapping time for money necessarily and grow some wealth over time. So
this has been an amazing, amazing conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, really, from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
If people want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we're on YouTube as The Humble Penny, Instagram also as The Humble Penny. We also have a blog at thehumblepenny.com.
Yep. And we're trying to grow our TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
It's again at The Humble Penny, but we're getting there. Watch out. Like next year, we're going to take it a bit more seriously. And potentially a podcast, but everything's at The Humble Penny, basically.
But also we have a book, which you can pre-order. Yes. You can order, now over at Amazon and all other book retailers. Just search Financial Joy by Ken and Mary and it should come up.
Buy one as a gift for somebody else. That's it.
I look forward to reading it. Ken, Mary, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Timmy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for watching this week's episode of the Mr MoneyJar Show. If you enjoyed it, then please do subscribe, as it helps out the show a lot and enables us to continue running. Anyway, we'll be back next week with another special guest. I've been your host, Timmy Merriman Johnson.